Congressman, this is Scott Shane. If I could ask a related question, does it bother you at all that these methods were borrowed from the military's SERE training program, which was created, grew out of a military training program created in the 1950s, based on Chinese communist interrogation methods, which were studied because they had produced false confessions. American pilots who'd been captured after enduring these kinds of methods had given false confessions. And in those days, that was called torture. So the program was essentially based on communist torture methods which were known to have produced false confessions. Isn't that a sort of odd basis on which to build an interrogation program?
Well, I wouldn't say that that's what this interrogation program was built on. I think what this interrogation program was built on was a broad collection of taking a look at how interrogations have been done, how they've been done, how they're done in a law enforcement mechanism here within the United States, how they've been used and administered through other conflicts, through other wars, who used what. And as you went through this whole process, the people that were responsible for developing this regimen of interrogations that were eventually approved and implemented both through the executive branch and in many cases were reviewed by Congress and approved by Congress, that they were then put into effect. I'm not necessarily worried about what technique came from what type of previous use of interrogation. It is whether the interrogations that we were going to put into a program, whether from a legal standpoint we believe that we met U.S. law, and the second thing is whether we believe that they would be effective. And the administration and others that looked at this program, looked at the techniques, reached the conclusion that, number one, they were consistent with U.S. law, and secondly, reached the conclusion that they would be effective in getting information for America.
Congressman, you mentioned that these tactics were reviewed by Congress. There have been some Republicans who said that Democrats who are now complaining about this are being disingenuous because they knew about them then, and they should have spoke out then. But if they would have spoke out then, wouldn't they have been leaking classified information? And what should they have done if they had objections?
No, absolutely not. They wouldn't have been leaking classified information, because all of us are in the Intelligence Committee. We are there because we are appointed by our respective leaders. In this case now, the Democrats are there because they've been appointed by the Speaker of the House. I'm there and my Republican colleagues are there because we are appointed by the Minority Leader, Mr. Boehner. I'm not saying that they should have spoken out and gone to the media, but I can tell you that over the last number of years where there has been information that has been provided to me, on occasion I have been concerned. And what I do when I have a concern about information that is provided to me, I go to the person who appointed me to be the chairman or the ranking member. Just recently I went to Leader Boehner about something that I had been briefed on. I knew he had not been briefed on that information. I made the call. I made the decision to go to Mr. Boehner and to talk with him specifically about this, to raise the issues and raise the concerns that I have. He then has the responsibility for making the final call as to whether he will go to the next step, which is bringing it up to the attention of the President of the United States. I think you're well aware of, I think you broke the story a few years ago where I had some concerns about what was going on in the intelligence community and wrote a classified letter to the President of the United States raising my concerns about what was going on. So it's not disingenuous. That's disingenuous. That's exactly why we're on the committee, because our respective leaders hold us accountable for reviewing the information, and if we see something that we are concerned about or that we object to, that it's our responsibility to go to our leadership and raise the issue with them. We are their designees on the Intelligence Committee.